Hello and happy Wednesday. I am thrilled to be here with you today. I am just going to pull up my notes and dive right in. Today, we are going to be talking about websites, specifically the mistakes that I see photography websites making and how to fix them, which is so timely right now because we're moving into engagement season. It's going to be the new year. If you're shooting as much as I see so many people shooting, you also have lots of new portfolio, and you might be thinking it's time for a website refresh. And these are the mistakes that you need to be looking out for specifically. All right, so I'm feeling like very official today in my blazer, but don't worry, I'm wearing slippers and it's only professional up top. Okay, so if you're here live, jump into the chat, tell me where you're watching from and how you feel about your current photography website. If you're watching the replay, drop a 2 in the comment section and answer that same question. How are you feeling about your website? Is it something you haven't updated in a while? Is it something that you're really proud of and you love that people ask about it and want to see it? Or is it kind of something that you know you need to be working more on, but you're not exactly sure what needs to change, right? So tell me where you're at with your website as I jump into these 5 things. So I'm going to kind of bring down on you some mistakes that I'm seeing in the photography space specifically when it comes to websites. And I hope that in doing so, you'll be able to maybe identify a few of these and some tips for things that you could implement into your website. Let's dive right in. The first mistake that I see photographers making with their websites is sacrificing usability and user experience for a cute or clever design. So this is looking like trying to be original in spaces where you actually don't want to be original because you're sacrificing the user experience. This could look like maybe non-traditional buttons, your menu option being hidden or not in an intuitive place on your website, not having navigation at the top of your website at all, but rather just a big image and the person doesn't quite know where to go. Or it could look like hiding important information like those buttons because you think it looks ugly and you're trying to lead with the photos. And the reason that this is so interesting and so important is that your usability and your user experience and the way that somebody interacts with your website and flows through it actually influences where you will land in search on Google. So this influences your ranking. The time that people spend on your site and the way that they flow through it is going to indicate to Google whether or not they found the information they were looking for and if they had a good viewing experience. And so what can sometimes happen is we put so much time into search engine optimization. You may have optimized a blog post fully, but if the design of your website is such that somebody gets there and they can't find what they need because, the buttons don't make sense, they don't hover over them with text that changes, maybe it's not underlined for all your links, the menus are hard to find, and the user experience is just lacking, they click back. And then what happens is that signals to Google that this site did not give them what they wanted, and you have a potential loss in your ranking from that. So it's super important to make sure that while we want to be unique and different and clever in our design, you definitely want to be clear over clever because clarity is important. This is also a big time to just look at your menu options, make sure that they are visible, that they are clear on both mobile and desktop, and that it's clear what you do, right? So if it doesn't have your menu options for where they can look at your portfolio and they can't see this very intuitively, that's definitely something to check. Okay, so mistake number 2 that I see photographers making with their websites is focusing only on photos and then avoiding the use of text. Super common one here because we love our images, right? And we want to lead with the images. But you need words on your website if you're going to rank in search. Preferably, you need bodies of text in text size fonts, and you need H1 titles. So we need headers on our sites. We need it to be broken down in skimmable paragraphs. And I see this oftentimes when I'm reviewing photographers' websites that there's a lot of beautiful images, but not a lot of words. And this is going to make it really tricky to show up for your location or the type of photography that you offer in search. So we get really, really focused on the portfolio, which is great. We need to be focused on the portfolio. But we need to make sure that we're also saying why we do it, where we do it, and look for opportunities to put text on our website. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of places that are great spots for text that you really want to be thinking about on your website. So a couple of places where text makes a lot of sense on your website would be your About Me page, your contact page, and of course, your blog post. And I see here we just had a question, is it necessary to create a blog? I'm not really good with words. It absolutely is, in my opinion, if search engine optimization is something that is high on your priority list. If you want to be seen by Google as a site that's being frequently refreshed and updated, a blog is a perfect way to do this. It's also going to position you as an expert in your field of what you're doing. It's sort of like a living portfolio that you don't have to go back into your portfolio page and constantly be updating. And it's one of the most frequently visited pages of a website. When I get to a website, if they have a blog, it's one of the first links that I click. And I'm pretty sure this could be true for most of you as well. Tell me if you ever look at someone's blog before you hire them. If you work with anyone in your business, you might go check out their blog and see if it's recent, if it's updated, and if there's good information, right? So I absolutely agree that your blog posts are a great place to put content like text, and where it makes a lot of sense when we oftentimes we wish that we could just put beautiful big images on our website, but this isn't serving us in terms of search engine optimization. Okay, third mistake that I see is not giving your visitors that come to your website a reason to come back. And this is why blogging really is not dead. If we do not give people a reason to come, get cozy, spend some time on our website, absorb the information, and better yet, come back, then we're not effectively driving as many sales and inquiries into our business as we could be. And this is going to be true of, almost any store that you walk into. And your website is really your store. The longer that someone spends in a store, statistically, the more money that they will spend. Yes, longer time spent equals more money spent. If I go to Whole Foods for an hour, I'm probably putting a pretty decent amount of stuff into my cart, or I'm getting ideas for other meals I could make, and I'm probably going to come back and get more. It's the same way with our websites. The longer amount of time that you can keep someone on your site, absorbing your information, reading about who you are, what you do, the stories that you do with your clients, maybe you have some testimonials, the more that they can spend that time on your website, the more likely they are to remember you, to come back, and to reach out. And not to mention, the longer they spend on your website, the higher that you're going to rank for whatever search term that they found you through. Now, even if they came to you directly or through social media, this is constantly Google, like telling Google where you stand and how credible your domain authority is, right? And if you have had a website for a very short amount of time, we have lots of less information. So I personally have been facing this because I retired an old domain that I had for 8 years in favor of a new domain for what I think is going to stand the test of time with me now in my business. So I retired my photography URL in favor of my short one, joymichelle.co. This year, which means I have been on this little baby domain that Google does not know, is not familiar with, and doesn't have as much information on for about 5 months. If you're like me and you're in that instance, one of the best ways you can raise your standing with Google is through frequent updates, blog posts, and doing these things that we've been talking about here today. Okay, so mistake number 4 is ignoring your load speeds. So using way too big of images, not sizing your images properly, and then causing your whole website to get bogged down. Now, I think most people know that the user experience is going to kind of struggle, right? If somebody's on their phone, which is where most people are finding vendors nowadays, is on their phones. If they're on their phone and they cannot get your site to load, whether that's their poor internet connection or something with your images being too large, the likelihood of them clicking away and jumping off is pretty high, unfortunately. So it's really important that you run a test, a site speed test for your website every once in a while. Now, photographers' websites are going to load a little bit slower than sites that are purely text-based with just a few images sprinkled therein, right? But there are a lot of things that we can do to make those image sizes a little bit more digestible and to load much, much quicker. And it's important for you to be aware of your load speeds because that could be one reason why you might be getting traffic to your site. But by the time the page loads, they've kind of lost interest. They're getting a little frustrated. They then don't have the greatest user experience where they're trying to find the information they're looking for, and then they give up. So all of these things can contribute to why your website may not be ranking where you want it to, but also why your website might not be serving your clients as well as they could be. Okay, this actually leads us into mistake number 5. And mistake number 5 is hiding important information. This is very common, and I'm not exactly sure why this happens, but I can't tell you how often I see people hiding information like their location, their email address, their phone number. Contact information is notoriously hard to find. Location-based information is notoriously hard to find. But I will also say that pricing information is notoriously hard to find on photographers' websites. And whether or not you choose to list complete pricing or not is not what I'm talking about here. But if you're making it feel like a treasure hunt for someone to go around your site and they're trying to figure out where you stand on pricing, even just a starting price, and they can't find that within a few clicks of your home navigation, you can be losing a lot of potential leads. And I think it can be really frustrating. So just remember that our site is there to be a store. And as people walk through a store, they flow through the store. And if you've, been into a grocery store or a retail store recently, you'll kind of notice that there is a flow where you're naturally going to walk, and on your way out, there are the checkout counters where they want you to pay. And so really thinking of your website as an experience that you want them to flow through is going to help you not to hide information or tuck it away or make it an afterthought, but rather list it more prominently so that people can find what they're looking for. I think a great example of this is on your contact page. If on your contact page, you have a nice long contact form that's going to gather all kinds of great information from your potential clients, but somebody might come in there and they don't want to hire you for photography, but rather they're asking if they can grab some of your images and feature them in a local magazine. Maybe you have a publisher and they say, oh my gosh, we love your images. We're running a feature, but we'd like to email you. I don't want to fill out a whole form that's going to take me 5 minutes. I just want your email address. And that's a great example of if you don't have your email address listed on your website somewhere that's just easy for them to copy paste, you really could lose out on that opportunity to be featured or published by that local publisher because they don't want to go through that whole contact form. And that's just one example, but make sure that you're not making your users of your website jump through hoops in order to get the information that they need. Okay, so I have one bonus mistake that I see because when I was making this list, at the very end, I was like, okay, I feel like we need to talk about one more thing. One mistake, the bonus mistake, number 6, is forgetting to use call to actions on each of your pages. And this is really how you're leading them closer to the sale, closer to booking you, closer to knowing you, your services, and then making that next connection. So going off of the example of that digital storefront, we have to get them flowing through your site closer to the purpose of your site. So really thinking about it more than just a portfolio, but truly a handshake, a get to know you, getting them closer to the place where they're ready to contact you, right? So calls to actions. I think a great call to action for your homepage is for them to look at your services or to meet you. So you can go either way. So maybe you link to your about page and you share a little bit more about you and what you do for your clients. Once you're on your about page, I think it'd be great to link to your services page, especially at the end of every page. When you get to the bottom, you should either have a presentation of another menu or a call to action. I think preferably one call to action is really strong because it's going to give them not the decision overwhelm of lots of options, but rather just one thing. Once you're on that services page, I really think a strong call to action is your contact page, because if they're interested in your services, they should probably be reaching out to you and talking to you about availability. So making sure that you go through your site and you're looking for these things, making sure that the person knows kind of what you want them to do next and that they don't feel overwhelmed with those options is absolutely key. Now, if you are watching this here with me live or recently after this replay, I have a super fun announcement. I am offering website audits for photographers. Now, this is something that I normally only did for my one-to-one business coaching clients, but I've made it available to you now. And I have less than 20 spaces left. I actually already announced this over on my Instagram yesterday, and a few of those spaces got snatched up. So we have less than 20 spaces before that they sell out because I do have a limited capacity here as a working mom. But I will personally review your website and give you feedback in 4 areas. You will hear back about user experience, your portfolio curation, which we didn't even get to talk about here today due to time, search engine optimization, and design. Now, I have been a full-time photographer and entrepreneur for 8 years. And what a lot of people don't know is that I actually came from graphic design. So I have a design background. I am big into colors, fonts, and layout, and I can give you that perspective both as a photographer and a designer. And so that is why I feel that I can give a unique experience for these portfolio and website reviews. So if you are interested in that and you want to grab one of those limited spots and be one of those 20 people, I have the information down below. And you can always reach out to me via email or DM if you have any questions about what it would look like for me to review your website. So guys, it's been 5 ways that I see people, photographers specifically, struggling with their websites, mistakes that I'm seeing. So let's do a quick recap. Number 1 is sacrificing the user experience in favor of something cute or original. Number 2, focusing only on photos and completely forgetting about text, which is really going to make you struggle with SEO. Number 3, not giving people a reason to come back to your website. Number 4, forgetting about that load speed and how impactful that is. And number 5, hiding important information and treating your website like a little mini treasure hunt. So guys, this has been just a quick, concise 5 mistakes that I see photographers making on their websites. Again, I'm going to have those spots below. We have less than 20 spots available for a personalized website audit. I hope this has been fun and informative. If you learned anything and you think I'm going to use one of these tips, let me know specifically which tip stood out to you. And feel free to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. I will be back on my channel next week and I will see you then. Okay, bye guys.